Do vintage lenses really make your footage look more cinematic? Well, I thought I'd put it to the test with the infamous Helios 44M 58mm. This little Russian lens is sturdy and quirky, like me, but unlike me, it renders color and contrast muted. It's got crazy flares due to its lack of coating on the lens, and it's most known for the infamous swirly bokeh. Given all this, I want to focus on the cinematicness of it all. But what's more cinematic than a vintage lens? An anamorphic-moded vintage lens. So to get started, I needed two things. Well, aside from all the equipment, a subject and like the chicken bones of a story. I need those two things because it helps me direct the actor if I know what I'm trying to get out of the story, and it gives the actor something to play with. So it makes the performance better. So I made up an idea for a story in a couple minutes, and I kidnapped my dear, dear friend Sam, and we ran away to Wonderland. I really enjoyed shooting on this focal length. I think the 58mm is more intimate than the 50mm, and I just thought it worked with this story. And I know I created the story based on the lens, but in reality, you should pick the lens based on the story. What I did really like about these images was the painterly quality of the backdrop. In the foreground, it was sharp. It did kind of have that digital sharpness, but it into the background, it looked like it was painted on. Now, do I think the quality of the lens or the colors, the contrast made it look more cinematic? I think what may have made it look more cinematic, if you think it does look cinematic, is probably the location, and it's probably the composition and the lighting and how I use the natural light. And if you didn't think it looked cinematic, wait, let me just... But as you can see with the image, it is still sharp, so I don't really know if it really made it more cinematic by softening it. But I did notice some issues with color in the shadows on his face, like right around here. This deepest part of the shadow started to desaturate, and it created like this really intense line from where the saturation ended. And so I decided to do a little test to see if it is just the lens. So I put it against my Zeiss, and I noticed that the Zeiss, even though it was at 2.8 and the Helios was at 2, the Helios was still darker and didn't have as much color in the shadows. So I pushed it around. It did look like some weird stuff was maybe potentially happening. So I did a little bit more research and I changed how I was coloring it. And honestly, that fixed it a lot. So maybe there's colorists out there who can verify that, yeah, with certain lenses, you will have issues in post coloring it. So let's talk about the anamorphic mod. So how they get this mod is they put a little blue line in the back of the lens, and that creates that blue lens flare. But what I didn't know it would do is that with all the other lens flares, it created a line right down the center of them, as you can see here. I think in the future, I will be demodding this lens. So, or maybe I should be a good person and accept the lens the way it is right now. Now I'm probably gonna change it.